Welcome back to the program, everybody. Glad to have you here. So this is the last episode of season 2 of Grow Organically. And I'm thrilled to welcome my friend and colleague, Yelena Melamed, to the program today. Yelena is the head of product at Catchlight, 25 plus year vet of fidelity, building and creating products for the financial services industry. We were talking the other day about key themes that came out of season 2. And I was thinking about episode 15 with Jim Mochi from EP Wealth. Jim talked a lot about metrics. Episode 21 with our friend Sophie from Sageview talked about partnerships. And then we talked to Marissa Fox Foley in episode 17 about referrals. And so we're going to carry those 3 themes through the program today. But welcome, Yelena. Good to have you back.
It's nice to be here. I feel like now I'm on a real season finale, whereas when we started, it was so early on. It's been fun to listen to all the guests and learn a ton from them.
It's been a learning experience. I'm sort of afraid to go listen to the first episode, which was the 2 of us. But maybe we'll put it in one of these AI programs to see how do we do between then and now. But great to have you here. So as I said, on this season, talked to a lot of guests from large firms about the importance of working with partners in other areas of their business to grow their AUM. We discussed partnerships across lines of business. Think about advisors working with tax professionals or attorneys. Some firms are working with the accounting partnerships. Other firms are working with their retirement partners. So identifying those individuals within the retirement plan side of the business that could make for a great wealth prospect. So Yelena, where does Catchlight fit into this strategy? What's your view? What are we doing from a product perspective to help these firms identify this cross-sell opportunity?
It's great to hear some of the use cases you highlighted, and we've had a number of conversations with firms as they've been trying to figure out their organic growth journey, specifically on how do they attract leads that their partners may already have in their books of business. And we've really partnered on solving a couple of things, probably 3 that I would highlight in our conversation today is really the amount of trust and understanding of each other's business that it takes to not only create this ongoing flow of leads back and forth both ways, right? But also to understand each other's business very, very intimately while systematizing that whole process. And so what we've done is try to help firms first think through how do we understand each other's targets. So by evaluating the books of, let's say, the advisory firm and tax partner, we've been able to help firms, CPA firms, as any partner, have a better understanding on who this wealth management firm happens to be targeting, because that's really difficult to do. Otherwise, you almost think that every single one of our clients that may be in excess of some dollar figure is a good fit, and that may not be true. So that's step 1, really trying to paint a better segmentation picture of another company within this CRM experience of the partner firm without them having to move the data around. So being very privacy forward in that way, but being forward on kind of understanding each other's ICP. 2 is really building those relationships between professionals, whether it be CPA or an attorney working with an advisor. It's really important for them to understand each other. And we've really studied those relationships a lot. And what we hear is you often go to some sort of a community event and try to build partnerships with the estate attorneys and others in the ecosystem around your office. But what happens when you're clients are much broader than that. And how do you really get to know each other so that you could trust them enough to refer the right of one of your client that has a need out to them. And so we've built actually technology in and around those questions that we are with in beta with a number of firms with to try to understand each other's professionals. How do I know that the need, and I'll use myself as an example of Yelena, is a good fit for Bob or Johnny, who are both maybe attorneys that I have a relationship with. And last but not least is enabling, especially those firms that manage a significant amount of relationships that may not have a touch point with them throughout the year, to offer to their customers the opportunity to find an advisor in your referral network that's a good fit for them. Again, this is where we've continued to test capabilities that we are seeing some really interesting opportunities with.
There's a thread here, thinking about the partnership across a business, within a business or across businesses. And I want to try and distill what you just talked about into what I think is a really interesting opportunity, where whether it's within the business or outside the business, making sure that each side of that partnership understands the ICP. So who do you serve? Who do I desire as a client? And then having a tool set, technology that helps facilitate that. And then ultimately, because you talked about sort of segmentation and you went to trust and the relationship side of this. And ultimately to the point where, say I'm a CPA and you're an advisor, I want to make sure that if I'm going to do, through this partnership, make this referral, I want to make sure it's going to the best person equipped and matched for my customer, because this is my customer first, and they've got a need. That's why I want to connect them with you as the advisor. Is that a way to sort of just quickly summarize the work that you and your team have been doing for the last 6 to 12 months to facilitate that flow?
Yeah, I think we believe that to be a process full of opportunity, because on one hand, there is some of the intelligence that we've had in our ecosystem, in the Catchlight ecosystem for some time, like the similarity to someone who buys financial advice, or the estimates of investable assets and income, et cetera, all the characteristics that can qualify and help an advisor personalize their value proposition to someone. But the other is understanding fit. And fit is a slightly different arena. And what we've spent not an insignificant amount of time on is to really understand where does someone have success in conversion. And it's not a rules-based model, even though some firms that have grown up their kind of ecosystem as advisors have come up with some kind of geo-based rules and AUM-based rules and even service model-based rules in terms of how to route business. What we're seeing is actually that there is an opportunity to make a much deeper data-driven, situational, if you will, decision, especially when you have a number of advisors that fall into, they're in the same geography, they fit the need of someone who is a retiree, et cetera. And so having studied the data and crunched a lot with our data science team and product teams in partnership with clients, we've observed that there's opportunities to differentiate based on fit. And we started this because firms have been asking about how do we route better. But what we've learned is using those same types of intelligence capabilities that we've built over time towards bettering the outcome of the initial match, get to just simply better type of a fit, better type of a return, not just for the advisor and their business, but ultimately for the consumer who is looking to trust someone, who's looking to put their kind of well-earned nest egg on the line in order to plan for whatever future they envision for themselves, together with that financial services partner. It's a lot more than rules would allow. And so we're through that are able to observe, for example, that one advisor in the shop is a really good fit to convert someone in the same geography, same AUM, et cetera, as I have to offer as a client. But perhaps another advisor, same capabilities, is just frankly a better fit for my background. And that is a very data driven real time decision. So this is what we brought to bear. Maybe a little bit an overshare there, but I think we are definitely passionate about some of what we've seen in terms of returns that it can offer to firms as a result as well.
No, I think it's great. It's not an overshare, and I think it's really important that you and your team often say there's no bad leads, there just may be a bad fit. And so leveraging data, leveraging the technology that you guys have built, and then being able to do that routing on the end of it, I think is a key component to drive higher conversion rates, and ultimately better outcomes, really for all folks involved who made that initial referral, who's receiving it, and ultimately the consumer. So thank you for that. So as I said at the beginning, we're going to talk about three distinct topics. So that's partnerships. I want to get into referrals next. So because a referral is not just from a CPA or a lawyer, a COI. There are lots of referrals coming through the custody referral programs. As a marketer, very clear to me the power of speed to lead. It's a critical piece of the sales process. Could you talk a little bit about the work that you and your team are doing and building for these programs, and maybe a little glimpse into the future of what we have in store?
Absolutely. Totally agree with you on speed to lead. And I totally agree with you with respect to custody referral programs as an example of a powerful channel in the industry. I don't have the metric off the top of my head, but I think some have said that something like 1/3 of um, all referrals or all business that gets moved into the RIA ecosystem is happening through the custody referral programs. And there's just more referral programs coming online, which is great. And I'll say that firms have grown up to understand that they really need to focus a lot of their attention. Speed to lead is one example on leads, especially from good sources that work well for them in order to orient their kind of best foot forward to converting that opportunity. I think what's interesting is a lot of the custody referral programs today don't necessarily flow all the way through into the CRM experiences in the firm. And so as a result, it does create a little bit of tension, a little bit of friction for the firms to go in and enter them so that they can be as reactive as possible to that incredibly powerful lead source. And so what we've observed in conversations with many of our clients is those that work with multiple referral programs often are spending and not an insignificant amount of time in simply rekeying information. And even at that, they are not able to necessarily engage with those leads in the same way they might from another channel. So we saw that as an opportunity and have partnered with a number of our clients, have been able to bring forward an automation that was in testing for a number of months with a number of clients that have definitely been able to achieve a lot of efficiency results. We have seen SLAs, be a big factor of what's impacted there. We've definitely seen firms or heard firms say that moving any SLA with respect to speed to lead by as little as 4 minutes have a direct correlation. I think the firm that I'm thinking about said something like a meeting set rate increase of 12%. That's a massively important metric, especially as you consider the value of these programs. And so um, we see lots of opportunities. You continue to automate generally and create efficiency for clients. Looking forward to seeing more results that we can offer to clients.
Did you say 30% of growth coming from custodial referral programs?
Don't quote me on that metric, but I believe that that is,
Somewhere around there.
yeah, it's not insignificant, and I think it's great to see that firms are definitely doing a lot of different things, but those custody programs are incredibly valuable and a big component of growth in the industry.
And they're clearly they're not for everyone. The custodians don't allow every firm in there, so there is some exclusivity to it. And so I think once you're in, it's an opportunity to really drive growth and leveraging what we're doing here at Catchlight to make that process a lot more efficient from the generation of the referral into your CRM, and then thinking about what you just talked about in the prior question about routing. That lead comes in, who should it go to? I know there are lots of firms out there that have teams of individuals dedicated to custody referral programs, and from a sales perspective, from a technology perspective, bringing them in. Anything that you've seen that's really interesting out there that's maybe new or you're not seeing a lot of firms doing
With respect to routing itself,
through the programs? Yeah.
I think what's been great to see is, especially as we automate the process, is firms starting to think about, in addition to kind of that first outreach to the lead and likely that FA that's made the referral, what else could they do to very quickly educate and present themselves in the best light possible? And so reaching out with the right fit, personalized education. It's been fun to see firms try. Don't get me wrong, everyone has been trying to do just that. But the challenge has been how to really narrow scope it to what that particular lead is seeking. So let's say I'm an opportunity that's been gained through a referral, and what I'm interested in is that a sleeve of my investing is done in a specialized alts, as an example, right? If you send me just education material about retirement, you probably missed the mark. For me, the reason that I'm looking for an alt is maybe as an income vehicle, but it is ultimately something that I'm specifically interested in. So the opportunity to use some of that criteria of why the referral was made in the first place to drive some of your initial marketing outreach, whether it's through an education campaign or the first thing that you say when you pick up the call, because that data is purely there in your CRM, has been absolutely valuable. Really cutting a process that didn't happen as often to being there, or cutting that outreach from something that took an hour to minutes.
Yeah, that's the efficiency that you mentioned earlier. So we've touched on partnerships, we've touched on referrals, and again that third theme that we heard a lot in season 2 is metrics, and there's some Jim Mochi, as I mentioned, from EP Wealth. That's a great listen to see how he's thinking about metrics, but rather than getting into the conversion rate, things like that, I want to bring the notion of metrics up a level and talk about how technology. Lots of firms are looking for technology to solve a lot of challenges related to growth. I tend to think, and I think you agree. Maybe you'll disagree, and we can fight it out here. But that ultimately it's data, and it's the quality of that data that goes into systems that power AI models the higher the quality data in, the better the model's output will be. So when you think about what we're doing here at Catchlight and how we're thinking about and how we're leveraging data within our models, we're starting to think about not all firms are targeting the same persona. We've got folks that we work with that are ultra high net worth, or some that are mass affluent. And even within firms, there are teams that are focused on different niches. So how should firms be thinking about their own data and how they could leverage that data to power better decision making?
That's a big question. I mean, it sounds so simple. Just gather your data, put it all in at least one place. And the number of times that firms with the best intentions, actually, even some of the highest growers don't, um, strikes me as something that continues to be a big opportunity across the space. And this is, to your point, something that we've learned on the very crux of the data we bring to market. It's we build the capabilities like routing, but it all starts at the foundational data, the continued focus on improving it, continuous focus on routing it out, and kind of the continuous stream of the feedback loops that continue to improve it over time. Can I say continue again? I think for us, seeing the firms still not gathering all of their data in one place and thinking about it systematically as really your very own data growth engine, still presents a big opportunity in the space. I think, if you don't have that foundation, you're effectively flying blind. And I think it also creates opportunities for yourself to observe where you have gaps. Where do you find a partner, or where do you lean in internally and round that data story out? It helps you extract a lot more valuable inputs into your strategic decision making and investment process as you think about your future growth. I think that I will say that at that level, that's probably the one thing. If I had to impart parts of that, I would impart it in every conversation that I could have with clients and just the industry in general.
So collect the data, structure the data, but then start to intelligently use the data. We've built a lot of models here at Catchlight. So we've got the Catchlight score. We've got models that predict estimated income, investable assets, and so on. And we're starting to do some work. Your team is starting to do some work with our data engineering and data science team on custom models. Could you tell us a little bit about that work?
So this again, it started as piece of feedback from customers almost a year ago on lead routing in particular. So we spent a lot of time and energy. And so as we dove into that problem statement and talked to more and more firms that have started to take advantage of um, some of those data products, what we've learned is that's one out of the many use cases that exists in terms of rethinking or revisiting how you think about um, prioritizing of who's on next. And I'm going to try to simplify it, but one other example that I could think about is, let's say I'm a firm and I am, looking at my talent population, and I see that a lot of advisors are going to start to retire. How do I think about moving the business that they have in their books across the younger advisor population? Not just rebalancing from a kind of a resourcing perspective, but really being thoughtful about what's the right fit of the lead, or rather the client, to the new advisor, so that that business is sticky. It stays with you after the original advisor departs your organization. That is a use case that has probably come up more often even than lead routing, because you're now thinking about your internal ecosystem and kind of continuous revisit of who is the right person to manage the relationship. The other in that same set is an understanding of really the right structure for how you think through kind of your sales process, then your advisor process, then kind of your specialization process. And where we're seeing a lot of use cases that have required us to think about what custom models we bring to market, we've thought about what are those questions that we're hearing from firms. So those are just some examples, but there's a lot more, and I can definitely dive into them as well. But what we've created is technology that allows firms to, by contributing data on positive and negative outcomes, allow us to score fits, allow us to find the right categorically advisor to manage your relationship with an existing client, an advisor to manage a net new lead, the salesperson to answer the call of a particular individual, the type of collection of clients in your existing book that look like those that will likely buy more than a single product from you. And the use cases just go on, but structuring these custom model products have allowed us to satisfy some of those questions and create intelligence products so that firms are making data-driven decisions. So yes, it does start with foundational data, just like it does for us. We are, as a result, able to create better models and make decision-making for our clients a lot more data-driven and a lot more effective based on what they've experienced as outcomes in the past.
I love it. I've been a marketer the bulk of my career, and to think about the ability to leverage this type of technology, leverage these types of models, not just in what I'm doing sort of proactively, but leveraging my own data to better inform the models that I'm running from a third party like a Catchlight, helps me even further refine. Go to the point before about there are no bad leads, they're just bad fit leads. To a certain extent, you could imagine a future where those leads coming into the top of the funnel are almost filtered at that point just to be good for the firm. And so it's not a question of thinking about what is my meeting book rate or my meeting accept rate and conversion rates. Like if you change the top of the funnel, you use the data and you customize models based on what you have. I can't help but think it's going to accelerate business growth for really any firm out there.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to continue to see clients using the capability and watching their outcomes, which is typically how we continue to improve the feedback loops and improve the model outcome. I think there's tremendous opportunities there. And I mean, conversion models and how your data can inform them finding more and more type of better outcomes for you. This is no different. But it is intricately in decisions that you're making inside your business ecosystem. And this is where we can help.
Awesome. Love it. So my final question, and I ask this question of all my guests, but I'm gonna switch it a little bit. I usually ask, what would you stop doing 5 years ago if you were the CMO or head of growth for your firm? So rather than project back, let's project forward. So Yelena, if you're the CMO or head of growth for a wealth management firm, what would you start doing today so that in 5 years from now, you're not going to look back and say, gosh, I wish I had started that 5 years ago?
Well, I can say with utmost respect, I am not a marketer by trade, but I definitely listen to a lot of marketers, and I'm going to pretend that I can answer your question based on what I've learned so far. But I would say the biggest opportunity is to be iterative. It's stop making kind of broad decisions that take a year to see and observe the outcome. It is to start experimenting now and seeing outcome. I know that that's a broad recommendation, but it is actually no different than what we typically think about from a product perspective, it is a crawl, walk, run strategy is what can I experiment with given the problem statement I have today? Did it get me to an outcome? How can I learn from the very small iterative experiment that I've done to gain more intelligence and either invest more into doing the same or divest and try another experiment over here? Um, I'm not going to say, because I'll sound like a broken record, make sure you invest in your data. Foundational data is utmost importance. So what I would do is make sure all my data is and they're all in the centralized place that I can understand my business from a data perspective. Um, Bring data in if I'm missing it. Try something small. Invest into going after a particular segment for a month. Focus on the right people in that segment that I have demonstrated success in converting, or similar characteristics of maybe people in a different segment that these share that I've already seen success in and attempt more. Again, I don't know if I'm answering your question, Dan, but that's my CMO hat on answer.
Love it. I love it. Collect the data, iterate, iterate, iterate. Awesome. Well, Yelena, thank you for closing out season 2 with me today. Great to have you back on. I'll look forward to maybe another guest appearance in season 3.
Well, thank you for having me. It's fun as always, and I love the podcasts. It is a fun way to interact and listen to some of our customers.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And for those out there listening, thank you for taking the time to listen to everything we're up to. I want to thank all the guests that we had on in season 2. Really appreciate you all sharing your time and your insights with everybody. So that's a wrap on season 2. We're going to return in early 2026. New episodes, new guests. If there's anybody that you'd like to hear from, please reach out. Happy to reach out and get anybody else on. And only thing I'd ask of you is maybe give us a follow on LinkedIn. Tell us what you think about the program, and have a great winter. And we'll see you in early 2026.
Thank you for listening to the Grow Organically podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit catchlight.ai, where you can access all our podcasts, including show notes and other resources to keep learning. This podcast was produced by Catchlight Insights, LLC. It is for informational and educational purposes only. The content of this podcast does not constitute an offer or recommendation of any securities and is not intended to provide tax, legal, or investment advice. The views expressed are those of the speakers and not necessarily those of Catchlight or its affiliates, and are as of the date indicated, based on the information available at that time, and may change based on market or other conditions. Catchlight does not assume any duty to update any of the information. Catchlight Insights, LLC is an affiliate of Fidelity Investments. However, Catchlight and other third parties mentioned in the podcast are independent entities and not affiliated. Catchlight does not endorse any investment advisor or provide advice or recommendations to any prospective or existing client of an investment advisor as to the selection or retention of that investment advisor. This information is not intended for any person or entity in any jurisdiction where the distribution or use of such information would be contrary to local law. Third-party trademarks referenced herein are the property of their respective owners. All others are the property of Catchlight Insights, LLC. Copyright 2025, Catchlight Insights, LLC. All rights reserved.